Hello, teacher and classmates. Today I'm going to talk about the summary of the book I read. Well, I'm going to tell you a little about the biography of this incredible man. Stanley Martin Lieber was an American comic book writer, editor, and executive vice president of Marvel Comics. He was born on December 28, 1922 in New York City. Lee was the co-creator of Spider-Man, Hulk, Doctor Strange, Iron Man, and many other fiction characters. In addition, he had appearances in many Marvel films and television projects. Spider-Man was published by Marvel Comics in August 1962. The Amazing Spider-Man is one of Marvel Comics and the industry's greatest superhero. The story takes place in New York, Queens. It is a novel of adventure and action. The main characters are Peter Parker, Green Goblin, Harry Osborn, and Mary Jane Watson. Peter lives in Queens, New York, with his Uncle Ben and Aunt May. One more thing. He's been crazy in love with his next door neighbor, Mary J. Watson, since they were both 6 years old. One school field trip, Peter is bitten by a genetically engineered super spider that gives him the same enhanced abilities that it has: super strength, climbing skill, precondition, and powerful webs. Meanwhile, Norman Osborn, the mega-rich science father of Peter's best friend, in a desperate bid to nab a huge military contract for his company, he tests out a human performance and hires on himself. He kills his scientist and takes off with Oscor's proprietary glider and flies Suite 2. Meanwhile, back in the world of good people, Peter enters an underground wrestling competition so he can buy a used car. He wins, but the promoter shortchanges him. When the promoter is robbed, Peter lets the robber go. He goes outside to meet Uncle Ben, but this won't die. And Peter discovered that the carjacker was the robot he just let escape. After graduation, Peter fights crime as a Spider-Man, while selling photos of Speedy to Daily Bugle to make some cash. He shares an apartment with Harry, who started dating MJ, other than the whole best friend dating your dream girl situation. The board tells Norman they're selling the company to their chief competitor and the Norman's out. The Green Goblin, Harry Fathers, kills the board members at the War Unit Festival. Mary Jane is there too, as Harry's date, and she almost becomes collateral damage as the Gooby blows to the board it beats. Fortunately, Spider-Man swoops in to save her in just the nick of time. At the Daily Bugle, the Green Goblin kidnaps Spider-Man and makes him an offer to team up. Later, Spider-Man saves Mary Jane from a gang. She develops a massive crush on him. Afterward, Peter, Harry, Norman, MJ, and Aunt May celebrate Thanksgiving at Harry's apartment. Norman notices the cut on Peter's arms, realizes Peter is Spider-Man. That night, the Green Goblin attacks Aunt May, but does not kill her. Later, at the hospital, Harry shows up with flowers and finds Peter and MJ holding hands. Harry goes home and tells his father about these two. Unintentionally reveals Peter's greatest weakness to Norman, his love for Mary Jane. Back at the hospital, Aunt May advises Peter to tell MJ how he feels about her. Peter then realizes that if everyone knows, that means the Green Goblin knows. He runs off. Mary Jane wakes up on top of the Queensboro Bridge, kidnapped by the Green Goblin. Spider-Man arrives and they fight. When Gooby tries to run through Spider-Man with his glider, Spider-Man evades it. and the Green Goblin is impaled by his equipment before he dies. Norman tells Peter not to tell Harry. Peter's returns Norman's dead body to his penthouse, where he is stunned as Spider-Man by Harry. Norman's funeral. Harry thanks Peter for his friendship and vows revenge on Spider-Man. Mary Jane then confesses her love for Peter, but Peter says he will always be her friend, and that's all he can be for now. In other words, a great power comes great responsibility, but not a girlfriend.